So, today we're gonna look at how to mix a song completely with stock plugins, and specifically here with Ableton Live stock plugins. But before, let's have a word, because many people will tell you, you need this, you need that, you need this, you need that, or will recommend your plugins or whatever really, and you don't need it. You need nothing more than you already have with your DAW. And some people may say, oh, but my DAW doesn't have this and doesn't have that. I will guarantee you it has. 100%. Maybe the name is different, maybe it doesn't look like it, but it will 100% have it. And I have worked in so many DAWs. In each that I have worked in, the DAW had an equivalent, so probably yours is gonna have it as well. For that reason, I have made a lot of devices on Gumroad. I think 90%, something like this, are free, so you can just download them and use them. And I'm pretty sure everything I've used here in this mix from these stock devices are also free. So let's dive in. First, we're gonna look at the drums. So for the drums, I have a contact player. And in a contact player, I'm using, in this case, GGD P4 kit. It's from Get Good Drums, it's periphery 4 kit. And I'm routing them out to different channels. So this is a common type of working. And some may say, oh, this is not stock plugin. Yeah, well, I cannot record drums right now here. So if I would have recorded drums, then you would see no external plugin, but this is just the drum sound. I cannot make them happen like this. I need drums from somewhere. So in this case, yes, this is not a stock plugin, but at the same time, if you record a drum kit, you wouldn't have this. So here I have my drum bass, and on my drum bass, I have this plugin Heavy Drum Bass. And if we have a listen to the drums with the drum bass, and without, first thing you're gonna notice, it gets a lot of volume and distortion and compression to get a more in-your-face drum sound, which I want for this kind of music. The clipping I did not use, and the kick thing here I also did not use. This is multi-brand compression as well as the snare to get more of the punch. But I had enough, so I didn't use it for the kick, but for the snare I used it here in this case. So let's move on. Here for the shells, I have also an effect track. This is not something you can download, but it's also not complicated. This is relatively simple. I here have two chains, both have -6 dB, so I don't clip at the end here. This chain is just empty, which means everything just passes through. And the other thing gets compressed heavily, and after that gets distorted. So this is on my shells bass, and inside the shells bass are my kick, my snare, and my toms. So everything at the drum kit that has shells, the drums basically. Let's listen to how it sounds with the compression and distortion and without. It's actually kind of funny how everything falls apart as soon as I disable it. For me as well, because I usually do not listen without this on to my drums as well. It just lives on my shells bass. I don't ever disable it. Down beneath the shells bass we have kick, we have snare and the toms. Let's look at the kick. So for the kick, this is just an EQ. This EQ is pretty drastic. As for the sample in this library, I'm not too huge of the fan of the kick drum sound, so I process it a lot. I remove a lot of the high end as well, which is kind of weird for most people, as most people like to do a lot of high end on the kick drums, but for this type of kick I think it was just too much to begin with, so I removed it. And after that I have my drum strip. This is also, or you can have a look at what's inside. You can see it's just an EQ again. The drum bars I have disabled, some compression, and after that distortion. We can have a listen with both of those enabled and disabled, and to the kick alone. and we hear immediately without anything, it sounds so much like plastic, and that's why I don't really like this specific kick drum, but I wanted to use everything within one sample library so it's more accessible for the average viewer, because most of the people who start don't have like 100 drum sample libraries, but maybe one or two. Let's move on to the snare. Here I only have the drum strip again, and the focus frequency I have turned up. And again, we have high end, we have a little bit of transients, and we have compression with a slow attack and a little bit of distortion. We can have a listen with and without. Mainly what we are hearing is the attack gets much more pronounced, and from the sustain I've cut a lot, which happens to the compression I'm doing. And in solo it maybe sound not so good for many people, but as soon as we bring in the room mics, we get the sustain again. And I usually, when I mix, I like to get the sustain from my room microphones and not from my closed microphones at the snare drum. And we right now only listen to the closed mics at the snare. So now it only sounds like a block. So if we, for example, now get the room mic in conjunction, there's the sustain again. So for the toms, I'm not too sure that I'm even using toms here, but these are basically the EQs and nothing else. And the compression many people like to do on the toms is just coming from the shells bus we looked at before. This is a lot of compression. I don't really need too much more than that. Okay, move on to the cymbals. Within the cymbals, we have the overhead and the different cymbal mics. I just buzzed them together because I do not want to process them much differently, to be honest. And let's take a listen to the cymbals before and after using this cymbal strip device. Okay, again, the volume gets more, but to be honest, I'm not too concerned with stuff like this. We get more high end, we get a little bit more width, sheen, so to say, and I also distort the high end, and this is what the saturate knob here is doing. What this does is we lose a bit of the attack, which can sound weird on cymbals, and we get more of the washy sound, like noise, and less like abrasive ching when the drummer hits the cymbal, which can sound really bad, to be honest. And if I do this and a drummer listens, many drummers will say, this doesn't sound like a drum kit anymore. But yes, that's the point, because otherwise nobody will want to listen to this, because it's just abrasive if you hit the crash over and over and it just hurts your ears. You do not want this typically in a produced song. So that's all the drums. Let's have a listen to the drums with everything enabled and disabled. Let's move on. So here we have the guitars. And the guitars are just the eye tracks, because even the amp simulation is done with stock plugins. Let's have a look. These have my stock aggressive guitar tones plugin, which is not a plugin. On it is the device rack. The device rack has plugins inside, stock plugins from Ableton Live, and these kind of stock plugins are typically stock plugins each DAW has. And the most important, let's take a look, is this one. And this stock plugin, this hybrid reverb, is a convolution reverb. Is an IR loader, and inside this IR loader is an impulse response I made myself. I captured a guitar speaker cabinet and loaded this capture inside this hybrid reverb, and the convolution algorithm is something each DAW has. So You just need to grab whatever your DAW has and load an AR file into it. You can make one yourself, you can take mine, you can download somewhere on the internet, whatever. Doesn't really too much matter as long as it's something good. It needs to be properly captured and of course a good guitar speaker. Let's have a listen to the guitars. And without the amp. Let's have a look at the guitar bass. And on the guitar bass we have again one of the device tracks I've made, guitar bass, which is kind of a newer one. And on the guitar bass device track it's pretty much a very extensive EQ, but only with the points that matter for guitars. So I made an EQ, then I made a one-band multi-band compressor for chugs, because when you have chugs on guitar it tends to be a lot woofier, a lot louder in the lower frequencies as soon as you chug, which can be cool, but sometimes it's too much, so you have control of this knob over it. And also you can select where the chug frequency is, because if you play lower tunes and lower tuned guitars, it's of course going to be lower. And after that we have snipers, so to say, which are very, very small frequency notchers where you can turn down his noises. So let's take a listen with and without. For the next one, we have my instrumental bass. And here we have a glue compressor with these settings. And my thought of this is that I want, whenever a snare is hitting, to compress my whole mix and duck everything down so it sounds like an explosion. And I like to do this a lot of my mixes. So here we have the sidechain frequency at 145 Hertz. So I have mainly the thing reacting to my snare drum. Okay, and then last but not least we have my vocal, and on here also we have heavy vocals chain with just the preset screams high, maybe a little bit modified. It's pretty much always the same procedure. I have some EQ, I have compression, and then de-essing, and then some effects. So let's take a listen to a vocal before and after.
Sound check! Sound check!
And in context, of course.
Sound check!